Keyhole scarves are my favorite kind because they're easier to keep up with than regular scarves. This one is tubular knitted, so it's extra warm. I'll be demonstrating on a Superba. It's a great machine for the job, but at the end of the video, I will give you the tubular settings for other kinds of machines, because as long as you have two fully functioning beds and can knit tubular, you can make this scarf. This is a video pattern only, but I do have an entire book full of keyhole scarves, and I'll put a link in the notes. This is a standard gauge pattern, so we'll be using a number 1 or number 2 yarn that gets 7 stitches, 10 rows per inch approximately in stockinette. I get matching fabric, front bed and back bed, if I use stitch size 7 on both carriages. You'll need to check and make sure that's true for your machine, and set up so the stitches match, not necessarily to the same stitch number on the dial if they don't. Normally for tubular knitting, I prefer to set up so that the beds oppose perfectly. This project is an exception. The reason is the challenge we'll face when trying to knit the slit tubular. So instead of that, leave the beds when you set them up to alternate in the alternating position. It's this position for Superbas. It would be swing H on Japanese machines. And I can never remember whether it's handled up or handled down for Passaps, but it's easy enough to twist it and see. On the bed, this is what it should look like. If you push all the needles you're going to use forward on both beds, they should slide between each other without any conflicts. For the zigzag row, use a stitch size of 1 or 2 and depress this key on both carriages. Then we'll change to tubular settings and stay there. Side levers on the dot and the circular arrow key, same on front and back. So with 40 needles in work on each bed set to normal working position, small stitch size, thread the yarn into the feeder and knit the zigzag row. Push the comb up from the bottom and hang your weights on it. Now hit the cancel key and then the circular arrow key. Or if you're using another kind of machine set up for tubular knitting, it would be CX on the Passap, and there's more info about Japanese machines at the end of the movie. And it's time to turn up to main stitch size. Set your row counter to 0. The first couple rows are likely to feel quite stiff as we knit off that zigzag row. Now we just start knitting to and fro. But remember that you're going to need twice as many rows on the counter as you're actually knitting, because each time the carriage moves across, it counts a row, but it really only has knitted half a row. Now here's how we're going to work this. We want 8 inches from the cast on to the bottom of the slit. At 10 rows per inch, which we're getting, that would be 80 rows, except for the business of needing to double it. So this is a 160 row distance. We want a 2-inch long slit, so that will be 40 rows on the counter for each half. And beyond the slit, we want 26 inches before we reach the bind off end. So that's 520 rows. And I'll give you the running count as we go along. So knit the first tail, continuing to knit until the row count reaches 160. Now, on each bed, place the 20 needles farthest from the carriage into hold. The carriage settings remain the same, but we continue knitting tubular, and we're knitting only 1/2 of the work. That's creating a closed tube here. As it grows, you'll need to add weight near the edge of the slit, because there's extra fabric right in there that will make the stitches want to ride up. Heel grips or my heavy forks will be a big help there. The row count should read 200. And we finished the tube on the right, but now we need to knit the one on the left. Snip the working yarn, drop it between the beds, take the carriages to the left without knitting. You can remove them at the right-hand end and put them back on coming from the left-hand edge. The needles that were just knitting the slit on both beds now should be placed in hold, and those that were in hold need to go into work. The safest way to do this and make sure of not dropping stitches is to use a multi-pronged tool to slide the needles back into working position and rotate the stitches back up onto them. Time to knit 40 more rows on the counter, finishing the second side of the slit. You will need to continue moving your weight, placing it near the center of the work. I do find that the second side is a little bit easier to knit than the first side because our knitting is now growing to match the other side, whereas before it was getting more and more uneven. Now it's getting more and more even. Stop when the row count reads 240. Using this setting was allowing us to leave needles in hold, but we can now change that setting. After completing the slit, we want to continue in a complete tube the whole width of the needle count. The actual film of me doing that came out confusing to look at, so we're going to do it here without any fabric or yarn on the machine. And let me explain it fully. We've got half of the needles on the right in hold because we've been knitting the skinny tube, and we start with all of the levers pointing to the dots. When we go to the right, we don't want to knit these yet. We don't want to knit them till they're going to the left. And what I found out is if you put this and this back into work, it's going to try to knit all of them. It apparently takes precedence over the tubular setting. So if we leave this alone, put that on the lower triangle, then we knit across, those go back to work. Now we want to make a tube that includes these again. The nearest side to the needles goes to the lower triangle. Back to work they go. And now we're knitting a big tube again. So we have now resumed knitting all 40 needles on each bed. This is the 26-inch length of the tail. This one goes around the neck, plus through the slot on the other tail, and then hangs down to be a roughly equal length. Your row counter should read 760 when you've completed all the necessary rows. You will probably have to move your comb up twice while doing this whole length of knitting. To do that, slide the wire out of the comb, push the comb through the fabric as high up as you can control it, and reinsert the wire. The slit will appear down below with finished edges all the way around. Since I want to bind off from the left, I'm stopping with the carriages on the left. That does mean that one bed has knitted a row more than the other. Over this very long length of tube, it's not going to be a problem. You may bind off in any manner that suits you, but what I'm going to do is transfer all of the front bed stitches to the back bed, then bind off by using a manual version of the transfer and chain stitch method. I have whole movies on this if you want. It gives a nice, neat look, and it gives me a lot of control. You'll want to remove some or all of the weights for binding off. The bind off will be chain stitched and the cast on is not, but you can work a chain stitch through the cast on edge to make them match if you like. The scarf comes off of the machine completely finished, with the only necessity being to pull any yarn tails to inside the tube. It's all doubled, so it's very, very warm and just about ready to wear. One safety note, I don't recommend this for people younger than their teen years. My concern is that it would be a choking hazard when small children are playing. For the rest of us, these are great. All relatively modern versions of standard gauge machines in Brother family and Silver Reed family can also accomplish tubular knitting if you have a matching river. This is the SRP 50 manual, page 33. And just as I did on the Superba, we start with a zigzag row and then set up so that one carriage knits going one way and one knits going the other way. And this little diagram explains it to you in the terms that the Silver Reed Company has always used. Brothers call it circular knitting rather than tubular, but it is the same process, and it involves one part button on each carriage, and they oppose one another so that just like all other brands of machine, in one direction you slip, in the other direction you knit, and the two carriages perform the opposite function. In the notes, I'll place a link to my tubular cast-on video playlist, which covers a number of machines. If you know how to do the tubular cast-on, you have the same settings to do tubular knitting, and it may help you to actually see it happening on your machine. Now, what if you're like me and you do have multiple machines? Lucky you. I definitely enjoy doing tubular knitting the most on my European double bed machines. That includes Passap and Superba. If you're wondering what the difference is, one of the main ones is that generally the front and back bed of a Superba or a Passap were made to match perfectly, whereas a ribber on a Japanese machine had a slightly different emphasis. You will usually have to experiment to find matching stitch sizes so that both portions of your tube, those knitted on the front bed and on the back bed, are actually the same fabric. That being said, you can get used to it very quickly. It's entirely doable. There is no need to buy a new machine unless you just need a good excuse to buy one. Enjoy whichever machine you own. In general, tubular knitting does require a substantial amount of weight, very much less so on Passaps than on any of the others, but even Passaps will benefit. And by the way, on Passaps, it's single bed knitting, therefore you need your orange strippers. I know we're using both beds, but think about how we're working. One bed, then the other bed. So we're knitting on one at a time, and the orange strippers work best.